And we're here with Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, doing swell. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a Monday. Obviously, we record this on Mondays, and it's fun because there's no Bruins media, so it's kind of a day off. It's nice. We just get to
Hmm.
sit around, talk some Bruins. Watch The Irishman last night. I had a ton of time.
Oh, very good. Yeah, you need a lot of time to watch that. So
It was like 8:30, and I was like, you know what? I have all this time. I have nothing to do. I might as well just watch The Irishman. I've been meaning to watch it, and it was good. It just was really long. Like that
it
was
was very long. It's a very long movie.
Yeah, and it's slow in parts. So it's not like it's like, fast and furious, action packed.
It's
Uh
not like watching Goodfellas where it's like I think 2.5 hours and it feels like it's like 90 minutes because of how quick it rolls through. It's like oh no, I don't care when they're in like the retirement home really. No, this is we have 40 minutes left. Oh God,
yeah, no, Goodfellas is way better.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone would ever say The Irishman is better than Goodfellas, but Goodfellas was certainly better. Both movies, by the way, this is gonna embarrass me and people are gonna be angry. I've seen in the past month. Those I saw Goodfellas for the first time this past month in February. So
Better late than never.
exactly. I saw it at technically 21 because it was before my 22nd birthday. So I'm ready. I'm ready to make the Goodfellas jokes like I did yesterday
Okay, there you go.
on
Good.
Twitter.
I
Yeah.
was worried when I dropped that. I didn't know if I was throwing that one out there, but I'm glad you got it.
Oh no. Of course I got that. So not a great week for Bruins. Not a great week. I know they ended it on or they started next week Sunday. They started it on a good note, but not ending particularly well. There were a lot of problems. What was the biggest to you?
Well, I mean, obviously the one where you look at just the optics of it, right, is the defense, right? I mean, you give up 13 goals in 2 games. I think everyone gets concerned about that, and I think that's obviously the red flag is, you're seeing way too many transition goals, grade A chances in front of Rask and Halak. But the thing is that that's obviously a concern. No shit, like when you give up that many goals in a certain amount of span, it
13
is
goals.
concerning. But also, I mean, I look at it right where I think we all are in agreement that the Bruins need some more depth on the blue line, right? Like we've talked about Ekholm last week, like that's a guy they need, right? So this isn't any surprise. And when you missing 3 starters on your blue line, including 2 guys in Lozon and Miller who are good at kind of shoring up that net front, and Grizzly who, as much as I think people are now the Grizzlies been hurt, I feel like there's like the narrative of like, oh, they can do well without him. He's an injury prone guy, even though it's really only been kind of this year where it's done really, really bad. But um, you miss Grizzly and his ability to get the puck out and, get the breakout going and hit those first passes because a lot of these games they've been stuck in their own zone with forechecking issues. So um, but you look at that defense, right? You miss those 3 guys. You have Vakanainen in a top pairing role, and even though he has potential, I mean, I think we've seen multiple times where I just don't think he's big enough yet to handle some of these guys. I mean, he's been just kind of knocked around by Chris Kreider, which led to a goal. He got knocked around by Anders Lee and pushed around, which led to a goal against the Islanders. So, I mean, you've got a depleted decor. And you got John Moore playing regular minutes, and he did not look very good the last 2 games. So obviously you're shorthanded. You hope that a shorthanded unit doesn't give up 13 goals, but still not expected. But you had to know that there was going to be some issues with you're going to be giving a lot more chances given how the state of your decor is now. What I think is most concerning is, and Cassidy kind of touched on it, is that again you're seeing the same issues that the Bruins have dealt with for the whole year, where you've got way too many passengers, right? You've got the same situation where, I mean, Cassidy mapped out like, listen, we're going to have games where we might give up 4 or 5 goals, uh, if that's the case for right now, we need the offense and other guys to step up and, um, kind of carry that burden because at the start of the year, the Bruins were rolling, right? They were getting these third period comebacks. They were winning games and the defense was looking great, but that was kind of masking the fact that you once again were kind of relying on Bergeron and Marchand and Pastrnak to bail them out. Now the defense isn't looking so great, and you still have no one else really kind of pulling the rope. So I think that's the biggest concern is, again, you've still got way too many lines where not enough guys are pulling the same rope, whether that be, Coyle broke through on Sunday, which is good. But before that, it was a struggle for him. You look at the fourth line, which, I don't know what's up with Sean Corrali or Chris Wagner, but they haven't, been the same player they've been in years past of what you need from that fourth line. So I think that's the biggest concern is just more guys aren't pulling the same rope, especially offensively, because you need more guys stepping up right now, given the fact that your defense is kind of decimated at the moment.
Yeah, and it's funny going into Sunday's game again. DeBrusk 0 5-on-5 goals this season in his 13 games, and then Charlie Coyle had 1 goal in 10 games in February. I know he had 2 yesterday, one being an empty netter, but again, like it's really like when are these guys going to step up? When is Charlie Coyle? When is Jake? I mean, again, this right now, and this is something that I think I haven't seen a ton of people talking about. This is like Charlie Coyle's audition to be the second line center next year. This is essentially, the Bruins' really good long look at life without David Krejci if they decide not to re-sign him, and it's not looking good. This is like this, and again, he has Richie, he's had Smith. That's been pretty consistent through all of these games. He has not had a revolving door of guys. They've kept Smith with him, they've kept Richie, and the production has not been there. And again, like I love Coyle. I think he's great. I think he's a great puck possession guy. I think he's hard on the forecheck. He's a good solid center, but you need to produce, especially in the second line role. You can get away with it on the third line a little bit more, but on the second line, you absolutely need to produce, and that's not there. The other one's DeBrusk, and we beat this one into the ground. It's just like the consistency just isn't there. And I think that's and to me, I mean, it's funny. The past couple of games, Jack Studnicka's had way more chances, and he hasn't scored anything. But you tweeted yesterday the expected goals for Jack Studnicka right to the moon,
Right.
to the moon. But the secondary scoring just is not there. The defense the thing with the defense that I'm not super worried about is they're almost certainly going to add a top 4 defenseman at the deadline. At least that's what it feels like. That would be the logical thing to do. You're going to get Lozon back at some point. Miller's tough because it's a reoccurring knee thing, but if you can get him somewhat healthy for the playoffs, that's a good thing. And Grzelcyk will be back at some point, hopefully. And you pointed this out, I think, a few weeks ago when things were good, but there was examples of falters when the Bruins couldn't break out of their own zone. It's like this is what you miss with a guy like Grzelcyk. Like these just effortless zone exits and entries you don't have without Grzelcyk. So there's issues. But again, as you said, I think the more concerning one is the secondary scoring problem just continues. And no one knows the whereabouts of Ondrej Kase. No one knows where this guy is. No one knows how he's doing, when he'll be back. And again, that's not even, you can't even really rely on that because he still has yet to score a goal.
That's the thing is when he even comes back, you don't really know. It's not like you're getting this, let's say it was, Kyle Palmieri or one of these other guys who's a bit more of a proven scorer and he was out for a month. When he's coming back, you're like, all right, we missed him, but we know when he's coming back, as long as he's healthy, we know what we're going to get from him. Like, you don't know, Ondrej Kase can come back and, average, 8 points for the last 40 games of the season, right? Or he could go off and all of a sudden have like 10 goals in a 15-game stretch. You just don't really know what you have from him. And even if he's doing well, unfortunately, all it might take is another high hit to have him down that same path. It's the unfortunate risk you run with some of these guys who deal with concussion issues. But, it's, if Kasha's back, do you feel comfortable with him rolling into the postseason, right? Like, as your top 6 solution, even if he's doing well, right? Like, even if all of a sudden he's back and that second line looks like it's rolling, again, all it takes when you get to, physical hockey in the playoffs, all it takes is one high hit, even one that was relatively harmless, like the Miles Wood one. It wasn't like he got like completely trucked, wasn't looking. Like, that's kind of just the unfortunate kind of hand you dealt when you're dealing with injuries like that.
That's the thing. And again, you can't rely on it, and it's tough because he shows that potential, he shows that promise. I know when the Bruins got him last year, a lot of people were like, this guy is going to be the guy that sticks next to Krejci. And obviously a pandemic hit and stuff like that. But even then he was dealing with injuries. And so, again, I think the Bruins, things will get better. You saw secondary scoring in Sunday's game. You'll get secondary scoring here and there, but again, you need it consistently. Again, Tampa last year in the Cup, going out and getting Gaudreau and Coleman. Coleman was a bigger signing, but Gaudreau was not this crazy, or not a bigger signing, bigger trade. Gaudreau was not this big guy to get, not everyone was going after him at the deadline, but he boosted their secondary scoring by a lot, and that team didn't even really need it. So the Bruins need to find that type of guy at the deadline. And I don't think that's like a Taylor Hall either, because I think it's finding the right fit a Rich Peverly. I know it's an old example, or a Charlie Kelly, Chris Kelly. I'm so used to the Charlies when Coyle and McAvoy went yesterday in the presser. Anyways, that's the issues with the Bruins. At some point, they will pass. But again, the secondary scoring, keep an eye out for it. And again, Bjork. I mean, you can go down the list: Bjork, Wagner, Corrali. Like, not a lot of production there. So we've beat that into submission. But if there's one topic that we haven't talked about enough,
what's that, Evan?
that is Jack Eichel to the Boston Bruins. Now, this was
Who?
not on the show list for today. Going into Monday, this was not like a thing I planned to talk about until I opened up the Athletic this morning and saw Fluto write Bruins trade for Jack Eichel ? What we're hearing about the Sabres star coming to Boston, and you think, oh my God, what is going on here? And an NHL source said, I just don't see any way they can't be all over him. Talking about the Bruins being all over Eichel. My response to that is
same. Yeah, I mean, of course.
But I also can see how they wouldn't be all over him because of the other things that other teams have that the Bruins don't have to offer. Now, Fluto goes on to list, how good a fit Eichel would be. And I don't think the reason the Bruins wouldn't get Eichel is not because he wouldn't be a good fit. I think
it's the same reason that it always is as to why they're not, it's the same narrative every single time. Like, they would love Eichel, but
and so this is the funny part. The source said, when it comes to what the Bruins have to give up, he said, I think you're looking at McAvoy and Frederick probably minimum. Now,
Next.
Yeah, like Frederick, fine. Like, if you want, like, if the Sabres came calling and said, we want Stadnicka, like 2 firsts and a prospect, you say yes, because again, you're getting the proven elite center, and you're trading away a more prospect-y type player in Stadnicka. He has the potential, but he's not there yet. Or Frederick, same thing. Like, you want to take Frederick for Eichel? Like, by all means. But it really, and Fluto goes on to list this, a trade like this, the Sabres, I don't think, are looking to just rebuild again. They're not looking to do this whole rebuild thing again, which you probably could spark a whole rebuild with an Eichel trade done right. Like, you could get firsts and prospects, and you could do that. But again, the Eichel contract is a lot. But they would probably like to get someone back that they can build around. And there's 2 guys the Bruins have, McAvoy and Pastrnak. And you're not trading either of those guys for Jack Eichel.
No, I mean, again, it's one of those things where you got Eichel, yeah, your cup window extends by 7-8 years at a minimum, right? But you're not trading guys who are also part of what that extended cup window is going to be, right? You're not trading the guy McAvoy, who very well is probably a top 5, top 3 finalist for the Norris, maybe the legitimate Norris front runner right now.
I mean, I think that, I think he's definitely top 3. The question really isn't, is he like worthy of it? It's, is he getting enough national attention? Yeah. Are people seeing that? Because again, he's not standing out on the stat sheet. He is here because he didn't last year. But are writers in LA watching McAvoy shut down opposing players night in and night out? Right. I don't know.
So I mean, yeah, you're not giving up McAvoy, you're not giving up Pastrnak, who, once we hit a full season again, is probably going to hit 50 goals, or at least come very close, as it's been the case the last couple of years, right? So I just don't see the only way I see an Eichel trade working out would be if Buffalo is dumb enough to let this carry out through 2022 when his no movement clause kicks in, because the only way the Bruins get any leverage at all is if they get to the point where Eichel, that no movement clause kicks in and he goes to Buffalo. It's like, all right, I'm only going to go to Boston. Like, that's the only way it's going to go. And or even a case where he blocks trades to teams that have a lot more assets. So whether that's I think Fluto mentions like Minnesota, where they've got like Kaprizov and a few other guys they could trade. Yeah. Or a few of those teams out west, that could be rebuilding, like the Kings or the Ducks. He doesn't want to go up to the West Coast, or he didn't want to go to New York, which would seem like it'd make a lot of sense as a place he'd want to go. But if he didn't and he blocked a trade there, then Buffalo's had its hands tied. But for right now, it's just an open bidding. And if it's an open market, the Bruins just don't have much of a chance at all. They already didn't have it anyway, but now that, even if they did throw out like a crazy trade that's not involving McAvoy, Pastrnak. Let's, I don't know, 3 first-round picks, like 4 prospects like DeBrusque and Kahlo, and like a crazy haul. Another team can jump in and probably match that with fewer players, but with higher talent, right? Like, what if LA does, Byfield and, other firsts, or Anaheim has Zegras, like any of these guys who are younger, who are on the cusp of like, stardom or something like that. Like, I feel like even then Buffalo would probably rather have those guys than take a few firsts from Boston where, all right, you add Eichel to that mix without taking away from a lot of its key core. You're going to get a couple of 25th overall picks the next couple of years, right? Like, would you rather have that? Or would you rather have what you could get from a team like the Kings or the Ducks? So yeah, it's not going to happen for the Bruins unless you get to a point where the Buffalo Sabres get that no movement clause kick in, and then Eichel kind of dictates the terms. But I would imagine Buffalo will trade him before them, but also Buffalo seems like it's completely incompetent. They can't even get their story straight as to whether or not Eichel's hurt. So that whole franchise just seems like a shit show. So maybe it gets to that point where they think, at this point they're running towards probably getting the first overall pick. I could see them have this narrative where it's like, all right, well, we sucked this year again. We've got Eichel and we got Dahlin and all these guys, but we'll get the first overall pick. We'll get that Owen Power kid from Michigan. D-core is going to look great, even though our coaches can't coach up Dahlin, who's supposed to be like the best D-man prospect in 10 years. So I could see them doing that, sticking around, and then it just all going to shit next year. So we'll see. Never doubt Buffalo to not screw up a situation where they at least have some leverage right now, because I could see that totally happening.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing is you deal Hall at the deadline for as many assets as you can get. You're not going to get a ton for him because he is a pending UFA and he's not having a good year. I mean,
yeah, that gamble worked out for him, right?
Just ask my fantasy team. He's absolutely sucking right now.
He wanted to win though, so at least he's winning.
He's winning, yeah. Good for Taylor Hall winning. He's winning the lottery technically. That's, I guess, so that is a win. That's a win. That's not a loss. But no, I mean, it's funny. I tweeted about the Eichel to the Bruins thing, and some people are replying. I love people when they reply Krejci as the centerpiece of a deal. I think we talked about this on Poke the Bear. Like, Krejci's is an older guy, expiring deal. Probably doesn't want to leave Boston. There's not a lot of trade value there. And it's not like if he didn't have a cup yet and he was on a shitty team, like, then maybe yes, like you could deal him somewhere for him to go chase a cup. But he has a cup. Like, it's not. Yes, he's good. Like, David Krejci's fine. But most people were against dealing McAvoy or Pastrnak. But I mean, you think about it, like, if you trade it, let's say it's a 1-for-1 deal. Let's say you do 1-for-1 Charlie McAvoy for Jack Eichel. Are you better? No, I don't think you are, because again, you'll have Bergeron for the next couple of years. Maybe Studnicka turns into, a top 6 center. At least that's what he projects. You also have Charlie Coyle, who, is supposed to project into a top 6 center. You have Frederick, you have Beecher in the system, who they expect something out of. You don't have that next franchise defenseman. You don't. And again, it's so hard to just draft one. It's so hard to just go out and get a franchise defenseman. Where I'm not saying franchise centers were easy to find. Go ask the Canadians. But again, you do have option center. I don't know if you don't on defense. You don't have a franchise defenseman.
No, I mean, I think you get to the point where it's one thing to draft a guy like even Kahlo, who I think has surpassed a lot of expectations as being a legitimate top 4 shutdown guy. And if someone wanted to trade McAvoy, I'm sure you'd have someone reaching for, straws and having the argument of like, well, we've got Jack Ashawn on the way. We've got Mason Lohrei, who's ripping up the USHL. And it's like, oh, it's all great and good, but I would rather have the surest of sure bets than a guy like McAvoy, who's going to win a Norris at some point, and then add those guys to the mix, make your D-core even better than trading away the guy who's going to anchor your D-core for 15 years for a guy that is great. That guy goes a superstar, but it's not helping out your cause right now. Like, you're not, desperately needing a center and you have to rebuild on the fly. Like, you're trying to max out and extend this current cup window, and trading arguably the best top 5 defenseman in the league for him isn't really helping your cause that much. Like it's it's a shame because Eichel makes so much sense for the Bruins in terms of just where he would fit and how he would help out this team, but in terms of just the overall assets, it just doesn't make any sense because you're not going to get him for mortgaging the farm. Because one, you can't really mortgage the farm because you don't have the assets to sway it over another team that might be desperate for it, right? There's so many other teams that I think can outbid you unless you include Pasta and or McAvoy, and I don't think that's going to
happen. But I do think that Pastrnak, if you traded Pastrnak for Eichel, again, like 50 goal caliber wingers do not grow on trees. Like that is so hard to find. And I mean, obviously, you have a little more impact on the ice when you're a top line center than maybe you do as a top line winger. But again, like Pastrnak is your go-to goal scorer. You know how many teams around the league? You know how long it's been since the Bruins had a go-to goal scorer? It's been forever.
Yep.
It's been forever. So you have that go-to goal scorer. Don't give it up for, Eichel. I mean, the only guy you'd give Pastrnak up for, we said this a couple weeks ago or like a week ago, whenever Pelgrim Mavs were talking about it, is like McDavid or McKinnon. Like that's really the only way you would ever do that. Eichel's elite, but you don't do it. Also, the other thing is, and we haven't even mentioned this, Buffalo trading Eichel within the division.
Yeah,
also would not
another bit of a roadblock.
Yeah, that also would not work out well. But it's fun to consider. It's always fun to consider.
Of course,
the Jack Eichel stuff. But Connor, before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we're going to be breaking down a couple of things, looking at some of the positives from that Sunday win, which hopefully they can build off of. So we'll have all that over at BSJ. So subscribe over at bostonsportsjournal.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all of that. And for CLNS Media, I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.